Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, or afternoon, wherever you happen to be listening in the world today. This is Bruce, and
You forgot my name already?
I was just hoping you might chime in there. That was a segue.
Roger.
The Inglorious Pastords.
Yes, September 7th, which is whose birthday?
Isn't that D-Day? We stormed Normandy or something?
So close.
Okay, September 7th, a day that will live in infamy. That was Dad's birthday.
Dad's birthday. Good for you.
Yes. You know why I know that? Because I wished him a happy birthday on Monday when Mom said it was Dad's birthday on Wednesday. And I said, well, since I'll forget by Wednesday, which I did, I said, happy birthday to Dad on Monday.
Bruce loves you even if he doesn't remember your birthday, which...
You literally think Mom's listening to this. For Dad.
No, I'm talking anybody. You don't remember anybody's birthday.
I don't. I remember mine.
I barely remember yours.
Oh, no. Mine's
that
a
is
big
true.
deal.
Yeah, right. That's
the entire month of February, I pretty much celebrate me. Bruce was born this month, and that's a big deal to you and to all on the face of the earth.
See, most people celebrate a birthday. Bruce celebrates a birth month.
Well, think about it. Why do we just limit it to a date? I mean, we could narrow it down to the hour you were born. We had a lot of parties at 2 a.m. No one wants to go to that. I think I was born around 2 a.m., if I remember correctly, on the Bothwell Memorial certificate that I still have.
Okay.
It's like 1 or 2 a.m. I don't know why that's in my mind. Mom would know. I remember I was a 10-pound bowling ball, and I was upside down and backwards. A lot of stuff.
I was pretty hefty.
There.
Yeah, I think I was a 9-pound, 12-ouncer or something. But Mom and Dad still talk about what a wonderful baby I was.
And what a wonderful man you've become. That's all I heard about on Monday. How great Roger is. What a great son Roger is. Roger visits us all the time. Roger's here every week. Twice a week sometimes. Stayed a whole week last week.
But it's good of you to call, Bruce.
Yes. Well, I don't even know where I'm going with that. So, this is, you know this because you pointed it out. Tennessee football is ranked in the country in the top 25, and they're not 25th.
Cannot be good.
Well, you don't want to be at the very bottom. You're at the very bottom. I mean, they're 24th, which...
Well, last week they were 26, so they were below the bottom.
We were really below, but Florida was below us.
Yes.
They went from 40th to like 12 because they beat a big team.
Right.
Utah? Is that Utah?
I think it was Utah.
Yeah.
It was ranked 7th or something, and they...
Although
that was one of those... The end of that game, I mean...
Utah tried to make a comeback?
No, Utah was... with like under 30 seconds left. They're like at the 2-yard line. Remember that Patriots game?
Mm-hmm.
Where they throw the pass and it gets intercepted at the goal line from the Malcolm Butler. That's BYU. So they're 3 points down.
That's how Florida beat them.
They've already got a field goal in their back pocket. They also had multiple turnovers. They also had 3 other times in the red zone. Anyway.
And how did BYU come up when it was Utah and Florida? So
did I say?
They had 3 teams. It was actually BYU and Utah against Florida. So they were really mixing it up out there. Old Dominion. Which I didn't know had a football team, but they almost beat someone. And then Appalachian State, of course, scored 40 points against North Carolina in the 4th quarter, which is just hilarious to me. That whole, who knows how these things happen.
Don't know how anyway, so. Yeah. But what's funny even there is, I mean, like, Utah made gobs of mistakes. So, yeah, it's a win. But the interesting thing, you're going to bump a team
to 12.
And
did BYU drop right out? Utah, whoever.
what's funny is they were 3 points down, so they were already a chip shot field goal for a tie. So that, he doesn't. It was just one of those you're saying, okay, that. And now it's never bothered me that Seattle passed. I didn't think that was
not a bad play.
But anyway.
Did Russell Wilson throw that?
He did. Oh, that
makes me nervous. Since he's the Bronco quarterback now.
It is true.
Don't throw it from the 2 on a quick slant. When Malcolm Butler is slanting, but he just pre-read that whole thing. Right. That's just because it's such a quick throw.
No,
you couldn't undo the throw in the sense you have to throw it immediately.
No, it has it
but
right.
Malcolm Butler had done his homework and he knew this setup. They're going to run, and I'm going to get the jump on it, and he did, which is just sorry.
No, I think it's funny. I probably mentioned on this podcast that literally they had practiced on that play the day before and he wasn't going fast enough. That Malcolm didn't make the jump, and Bill Belichick said, "You've got to don't think, but you've just got to." So they had literally practiced.
That's
it was
great coaching.
It was just bizarre. Anyway, just comical.
Just in case this is the last play of the game, we're going to practice it. That little 2-yard, and they could do it any other time, obviously.
How are you feeling about your Broncos?
I don't know. They're in the toughest.
Your division is ridiculous
in the National Football League. I do think they can beat the Chargers and Las Vegas. They've been in so many different cities. I don't know where to start.
BYU,
Oakland, BYU, whatever else. Kansas City. That's who knows. I mean, they're such a good team. They don't have Tyreek Hill, so that's going to be interesting to see that changes any dynamics about. But I think what I saw from even preseason when he went in for a minute, Mahomes, he threw to like 9 different receivers on 9 plays. That to me is an extraordinary quarterback. Mm-hmm. It's not like he's got 1 or 2 guys that if you literally don't know where he's going with the ball, you can't double team anybody.
Yep. Brady was always good for that.
He was very good about it.
Spread around different. In fact, I don't know if he holds the record for throwing the most to the greatest number of, I'm trying to remember whether it's touchdowns or just receptions. But it was just, that was always a stunning kind of number. So,
do you know who holds the record for throwing the ball to the wrong team? I don't.
I'm hoping it's not Russell Wilson.
No, I was wondering if it was Brett Favre, who also, was a touchdown leader. I'm very curious. Percentage-wise, if you ask David, he would say Mike Tomczak when he was quarterbacking the Bears. David used to make me laugh. He said, it's like Mike Tomczak goes in the huddle and goes, all right, here's what we're going to do. I want you to go right, you go left, I'm going to throw it to the other team.
It won't matter.
Right. Doesn't matter what you do. Well, you want to do a button hook? Doesn't matter. I'm throwing it to the other team. Got it. Are you sure you want to do that time? Mike? Yes, that's the play.
We got to keep them off guard.
Right.
They won't be expecting it all.
Oh, well,
I had a thing.
It's the best way for us to get a new set of downs. They run it back in for a touchdown, and then we get the ball back.
Brilliant.
Fresh set of downs. So the coach probably should have sat Mike down and said, Mike, it's really not what it means by getting a fresh set of downs.
There's a reason why I'm the coach and you are.
Okay, the coach called this play, but I want to throw it to the other team play. Anyway, life is good. Football's back. That makes me happy. I've been moving for the last 4 weeks. That does not make me happy.
Although
my back hurts in more places than I.
Although we're neighbors now, you and me.
We're literally next door, and I come out of my house every night around 5, and I just stand around seeing if Roger's going to come out and go, hey, Bruce, I've got some food over here. Marlene and I had peanut butter and jelly the last 2 nights because Raj didn't say, hey,
it is such a mistake.
Come on over. I made an extra big pot of, because you never know what Roger's going to make.
I always do. What you just need to do is just knock on the door. I was just returning your. Oh, could I borrow your? Oh,
I should just Oliver Twist it. More bread, please. More food, Roger. Well, I noticed our other neighbor, Carrie, on the other side of me, he also hollers to find out what you're cooking. And he tells me first, he goes, "Hey, Bruce, watch this." I'm like, "What's about to happen?" "What's cooking over there?" It's just great. We met the third neighbor over now, too. Our dog barks at his dog, which is fun.
And he has a yipper.
Yep. I must say yipping over Doug's bark. Doug barking at 6 a.m. is not going to get us friends with the neighbors.
Well, it's fairly muffled inside your house. That means you're getting it's really
right,
loud.
But I'm saying when he goes outside, because we sent him outside to go potty, and all of a sudden I hear him barking. I'm like, oh, that's bad. The neighbors are not going to be happy. But he's really settled in. So we have moved in, just for those of you that don't know, you're going to love this. We're moving from a 2,000 square foot house into an 850 square foot house, which I think we're chipping off like 60% of the house that we used to have. It's a different world.
I did it 11 years ago.
What you can and can't bring over. Of course, it's much simpler in one sense. It's much harder for Marlena than it is for me, because Marlena likes options. She likes clothing options. Yep. She likes decoration options, for even furniture options. It's just very interesting. So she's having to make some tough calls right now.
Forced. Well, we talk about simple living, but you're forcing your hand when you're going from 2,000 to 800. And
I know some of you are asking, what happened to the farm? Well, we still have the farm too. So my son and daughter-in-law, Zach and Carly, live on the farm full time, and we go there on the weekends and help out with stuff. It's supposed to have a tractor delivered this week. Of course, it was supposed to be delivered last week, so we're not really sure. I won't feel like Oliver Douglas until I actually have a green tractor that I can drive on green acres.
I wonder how this is going to change it. I wonder if, like, eventually you'll be saying, "Hey, Raj, we got this tractor pull in Bluntsville tonight. You want to come see the tractor pull?"
That's never going to happen, Roger. Here's what might happen. "Hey, Roger, we've got 20 acres that need bush hog. How about you take a drive? I know you've been wanting to drive my tractor for a long time now."
Now, what I am hoping, the call I am hoping to get from you is, we're going to build a little house on the property, and we'd love you to help with the construction, because that's like super fun.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I do think we've already talked about...
We can do a trade-off of the meals. These meals I've been fixing for you.
That's true.
And then...
you can come in and make things. Build things.
It's still one-sided, isn't it? Trading off fixing
No, I like your math.
Coming over and doing construction for you.
Yeah, it's really a win-win for me. And a win-win for you, because serving is what the kingdom of heaven is all about. Now, we've already talked about where the house might be on the property and how we might build it in. We want a little basement, a garage underneath. Talking about building something in that 1,000 square foot range, which would seem huge compared to the 850 that we got now.
You're upscaling.
Massive. But it reminds me of the first home we ever had, 1,054 square feet. Still my favorite house.
Okay.
I just love that house. So much fun. Had this little shotgun kitchen on it, the real narrow, kitchen, just with everything on both sides, and then a laundry room at the end of it. But it's a great house. But I love the basement garage, because you had plenty of room to piddle and do stuff. And now, of course, I piddle more than ever because I know what I'm doing.
You're a piddler.
Piddling simply means there's a project that needs to be done around the house. And so you take it on. It might take you all day, though.
But I know I love Bruce's piddling mode, because it's going to involve a pipe.
Yep.
With just wonderful aromas. So if I'm ever around Bruce, when I know when piddling time is going on, a pipe is.
So I piddled at the new 850 square foot house.
Yes.
This has window air conditioners. All right. So we're going back a few years. But the little window air conditioner, the side things, were all cracked and torn, and because they weather over time. So I took the air conditioner out. I set up a table first. I'm just getting smarter. It's piddling.
Yeah.
Set up a whole table for it.
Oh, that's what you were doing back. Okay.
Put all my stuff out. Had my pipe. But it was so smart, because then I took the air conditioner directly out and just laid it on the table. So I'm not having to, with my back situation right now, picking up. And then I rebuilt a new one on there, put it back in, insulated everything around it, screwed it in there good and tight. Yeah. when what's crazy is this little tiny window air conditioner. So it's like 16 inches wide. It's cooling the whole house right now. I literally just put a fan in the doorway from our bedroom, blowing out into the rest of the house. Keeps the rest of the house cool. I mean, Marlena came in the other day, she's freezing in here. I'm like, that's that little window air conditioner.
That's great.
Isn't that wild?
You know what I had? It dawned on me. I had that Gleason Drive moment.
Yeah. Gleason, where we both lived in a little tiny.
So how many years ago? How many years ago was that? So we're talking decades ago. That was
33 years ago.
33 years ago. Joy and I lived next door in a duplex next to Bruce and Marlena.
Yep. Like we literally could have pounded my fist through one side and I never got to your wall. I took our wall out a couple of times.
Right.
But I realized the houses were joined.
That the circle of life has come back, and now we live next door to you. And actually, so I've set up my desk, in the second bedroom, but it faces your house, and so it's like I feel like I'm stalking you guys all day. It's just
yeah, my desk faces a wall right now, and I stare out. I can look to the right and see like Triana Boulevard, but you can't really see it because you just see the grassy hill going up to it, which is not. I mean, that's better than seeing a bunch of junk out there. Like you have to stare at Tennessee Valley Recycling. I really can't see it very much.
Yes, I do have that view. The sun rising beautifully over the recycling plant.
Yes, it's like the sun living next door to a nuclear plant. It's just great fun. And the other thing about these 1954 houses that's just fun is they have windows in the bathroom right next to the shower. So it's like, I mean, we immediately had to put some kind of curtaining system in there. And I'm like, we have never had a bathroom that had a window except one other time. It was a huge block glass. It was a 6 foot by 6 foot, but it's that block glass you can't see through. It lets light in,
right? But
you can't see people. I always wondered if people could see skin tones through there, though. But every other house we've had did not have windows in it, not in the bathrooms.
Oh, we've owned many houses with bathroom windows. Yeah,
you always lived in older houses. 4 of our houses that we bought were new.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
so the Ringgold house was new. The Bird Green house was new. The house in Madison was new. And the house in out toward Newmarket was new. When we first,
you bought 4 brand new. You
houses.
were the first
person living it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, none of those. Which is why it was such a shock when I moved into the 1977 house and had all this work to do. Because the joy of like buying a brand new house, all the work is done. There's actually a guy, the last thing that he does a punch list.
Punch out, yeah.
And he's looking at this, he's knocking out. I'm like, so, well, when we moved into the house, the entire house was a punch list. Every room was had to be. Now we've got a new punch list because we're trying to rent it. If you can't rent it, sell it. But there's so much work to do. Just, a little maintenance and cosmetic stuff that, you while you're living in it, you don't care. But I realized we had started redoing the master closet at one point and I never finished the drywall in there. We had some paint thrown around for 16 years. It's been in that.
Yes.
But we didn't care because we just hung clothes in there. So now I've got to finish that and put trim down and it should be fun.
I had something possibly fun for us to talk about today.
Oh, we're going to talk about serious things now. Yeah, now that we're 20 minutes into the podcast. Yes.
Well, actually,
what did you want to talk about, Rod?
It's not entirely serious. Well, I'm actually building off of something you said in our last podcast. You said we could talk about Roger's golf game. Which it just evokes immediate spontaneous laughter.
Right, that's not serious at all. In fact,
well,
here we go.
Here was my thought. My thought was the analogies between walking with Jesus and golf. I just thought it could be fun if we could think about lessons from walking with Jesus from the game of golf.
Okay, and because everyone's golf game is different. Everyone's walk with Jesus is also different.
Good. See, now you
did a face cast earlier this month, I think. about stop following Jesus like other people, which was so good. I thought that should be a book. Have I said that twice now publicly? That should be a book. I think I did.
It's very affirming, very encouraging, which actually my face guest this morning, you're in the title of my face guest this morning.
I am?
Right.
What a day for me not to be listening.
No, don't look it up. Don't.
Well, now I'm curious.
No, you can't.
What is it going to say about me?
See, this is Bruce. The world revolves around.
Why don't we affirm
Let's
each
just
other?
put this podcast on pause while Bruce does what he wants to do.
Why don't we start out today by affirming each other? Let's start with me.
No, but you're.
It's not there yet.
Good.
Oh, what I learned about golf and goodness from my brother Bruce. And people have already loved it. That makes me happy. So, Roger, what have you learned about the goodness of God and the goodness of your brother Bruce from golf?
Maybe we can get to that, but I wanted what you said, what you did mention, this thing about golf that is great is there are the different styles.
Some people like to cut the ball. Some people like to draw the ball.
But even now, you would know the name, but you got some people with some very unorthodox swings.
Yes.
And I would be one of those.
Yes.
I'm not sure, actually,
it doesn't.
how you can physically strike a ball with Roger's movement.
No, there's one guy on tour that I don't know how he ever makes contact because he's up, down, and somehow gets back. The club face gets parallel at the ball.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no one. It absolutely breaks every law of physics that he can do it. But it's consistent and repeatable for him. It would not be for anyone else. Even when you look at Ray Floyd's swing from way back when, Ray Floyd had this twirl over the club at the top. He would take it back here and then twirl it coming back down. It was a very interesting. No one else did it. They couldn't figure out how he could stay on. Well, he won U.S. Opens. He won majors. But it was repeatable for him.
But it does get to that thing of where this pressure we often feel to do it the way somebody else does. There's this idol, this icon, this person.
Yep.
We're trying to follow Jesus the way they are. And maybe they're even trying to get us to follow Jesus the way, that old thing where we can feel like, oh, God led us to do a particular thing. Oh, this must be for everybody. And we can kind of put that press on people. But to look in where the swing you develop is going to be uniquely related to you. In fact, there might even be a bone structure thing, or maybe you've had an accident at some point.
Oh, yeah.
You can't do something just like somebody else, but you find your way. And it's what I love about the way of Jesus is he's not making clones. He's taking your personality. The Holy Spirit gives different gifts and abilities. He just has great fun, the Spirit does, giving different abilities. You have this skill set. You're going to be really great with lining up a putt. You're going to be able to drive with great power. You're going to have accuracy with your irons. Well, no, the Spirit's never given anyone with that. But
it's true.
Anyway, there's just, so I love that analogy or that picture of golf of, don't try and I've loved the fact that even you, where you would occasionally give a tip, usually when I would ask, or said there's, but you weren't trying to make me somebody else. You're looking at my game. You're looking at, okay, he can only do this.
Within the very limited confines
of your ability.
Golf swing.
What can we salvage here?
Okay, Roger, I've got one word for you.
Okay, what's the clue? What's the tip, Bruce?
Stop hitting the ground 2 inches before the ball.
That's not good.
Because what happens is, by the time you get to the ball with all that dirt and mud,
debris,
the ball goes about 1/10 of what you were hoping for. So that's your thought for the day.
This is Roger's goal. When I get over a ball, on the tee is I want to get that ball past the ladies' tees.
It's important.
Which are about 40 yards ahead of us.
It's important.
I sometimes do it.
And sometimes when you're playing in Florida, you don't want to exceed the ladies' tee because just beyond the ladies' tee
is a bunch of water.
Is a marsh. And you're like, oh, sit. Whoa, sit.
Yeah.
I've never seen a ball skidding along the top of a tee box, and I'm going, settle.
No one plays the layup off the tee like I do.
It's true. Hey, Rod, you've got two shots here. You can hit one directly into the marsh, or you can chip it to the ladies' tee box, 40 yards up there.
Just for a safe layup.
Then go for it. Go for it after that. That would just be hilarious to see someone do that, by the way.
Speaking of going for it, I don't know if you saw this golf story. Guys on the 18th hole, it's this dog leg right around water.
Okay.
So you're hitting over water, but this dog leg around. So it's I think it's like a par. I think it's like 430 yards, something. But I don't know if it's to get his tour card. He's got to make a birdie on this par 4. And so he decides to attempt a drive directly over the water.
Yeah.
To the
green.
370 yards. I'll simply say he missed the putt. He did hit the drive. I watched a video of it. He hit the drive over water, takes the dog leg entirely out, and missed the putt. But
missed a birdie putt.
Yes.
Wow.
An eagle putt.
But he got the birdie.
Yes, he had to have an eagle. Pardon me.
Okay, he had to have an eagle. Gotcha.
BYU.
Okay. BYU.
Birdie, BYU.
He was playing for
bogey,
BYU.
All those words, I get them all confused.
Yeah,
Utah.
When we're doing the scorecard, what'd you have there? Birdie? Nope. That's a different one, Raj.
This was a double bogey.
This one starts with B-O. Bogey.
Oh, I get those so confused.
Yeah. Albatross. No, it's not what you had. You had a snowman. Okay. You got 3 over and you got 3 under. You had snowman 3 over.
I'm trying to think of the spiritual analogy of losing track of your score.
Well, there's probably something to. I was just thinking of golf analogies with walking with Jesus. There is out of bounds on a golf course. So you're always in that world of we're playing the same game. We're following Jesus, and we've got the same goal in mind, whatever hole we're on. But there is out of bounds. There are places where you're no longer following. It's at that point you're no longer on the course.
Now tell for people who may not be in it. So why is out of bounds a particularly big deal?
Out of bounds is a big deal because it's a stroke and distance penalty, which means you lose 2 strokes. Because you not only lose the stroke hitting the ball out of bounds, but you lose all the distance that, let's say you hit it 200 yards out of bounds right. We have to come all the way back to the tee. So you lose the stroke that got you over there, and you lose the stroke getting it back to the tee.
So if you hit into a hazard, you just have the one penalty that you take it out of the hazard, but
you don't lose the distance. But
where it went in, you don't lose the distance. I didn't realize. I just learned something. I didn't know that was why it was a two-stroke
penalty, stroke and distance.
A net 2-stroke penalty.
Because I suppose someone could
learning right now.
I've done this on a couple of holes at that little course we play in Florida, where I will bring the left hazard into play, knowing I may hit it in there, because it's less hazardous to hit it in the left hazard and be closer to that green that's across the water than to hit it out of bounds right. Because you lose 2. This way, I only lose 1, but when you drop it out, you're 120 yards from the green.
Okay.
So, yeah, it took his 2 strokes. It's like laying up in one sense.
Oh, I know all about that.
Anyway,
I'm laying up all the time. I lay up on every shot I hit.
Roger lays up when he's not. I've seen Roger lay up a putt. Nice layup.
Don't want to take a chance here.
We don't want to get too close to the hole.
We don't want to get off that plateau for sure.
There's seasons in our walk with Jesus. I don't think there's 18 holes. Yeah. So someone that we might be friends with is playing a different hole than we are. the goal is still the same.
Yeah.
But they're on the 17th hole now.
Yeah.
Like mom and dad might be in the 17th.
And by the
18th hole. Dad told me a couple of years ago. He's like, I'm not in fourth quarter anymore. I'm in overtime.
But even as
I
think
he said I'm in the 2-minute warning or something.
That analogy is some holes. Well, they're actually rated, so some holes are
harder,
far easier, and some are. So yes, I love that analogy. That we might even say that's a brutal hole coming up.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I can look at that. Some people's life,
they're like suffering.
They're playing that is
they're playing a super tough hole.
Yeah, that one is just, season of life. I was thinking about golf as about the power of spiritual disciplines.
Mm-hmm.
Where here's what we know about golf: the more you play, the
better you get.
The better you get. It's the repetitions. It's staying. It's one of the reasons why one of many why I'm not good at golf. I like golf, but it doesn't like me, is what I like to say. But I don't play it very often. And this idea, and maybe we want this in the Christian life, we want it not to require discipline and work and staying with it. And
it's very interesting.
Yeah.
If I practice golf as often as I read the Gospels, I'd be shooting in the 70s.
Yes,
I really would.
Yes,
because you would learn. I think I would anyway. I think you would learn certain things just if you're doing something every day. Because I thought for years it'd be fun to play golf every day, and then I thought I would probably lose my mind. But you do get a rhythm going with certain things. And again, you have to practice. I'm not talking about just playing the game every day. I'm talking about practicing every day.
Right.
Where you're just working on specific things. Because if I just play an 18-hole round every day, I'm not necessarily going to get better. I've watched on one of those 3-day weekends, golf weekends with friends.
Right.
Like by the end, I'm just tired by the end of the trip. And the last round was like terrible. In other words, I didn't get better.
Right.
But if you're practicing every day, whether that's chipping or putting or.
Right. And that's where even these, what we've ended up calling spiritual disciplines, solitude and quiet, a time in God's word, prayer, fasting, where it doesn't feel like anything's happening. Even where I look and say, I'm chipping 50 times to this hole.
Yeah.
It maybe not doesn't in that moment necessarily feel like I'm getting any better, but you do that day after day. What the average pro, any idea of how much they practice? Do you have any clue?
I would think 4 to 6 hours a day.
Really?
Well, it's their job, right? Well, I mean, of course, they're 4 days a week. If they're playing well enough to make the cut, they're playing
a tournament. Yep.
So that might only be a 2-hour warm up.
But in the off season, they've got to. You've got to
stay on top of it. I would think it might be like football. You take a couple of weeks off, and then you're back to the.
And see, that is such an important analogy for, again, where we just think I can just go off of. If I just look at reading God's word.
Yeah. I find new things in scripture all the time.
Yeah.
So passages that I've read hundreds of times. I was reading one this morning and I read just a little piece in the study Bible addendum, and it was like a whole new thing. In other words, even part of why Jesus was incensed, this was in the Gospel of John, why he was incensed with them selling cattle and sheep in the temple courts. It's understood that certain people traveling from out of town had to have an animal for sacrifice, or they had to get money changed because if they're going to pay their temple taxes or their offerings, it had to be a certain kind of currency. But they were doing it in the temple courts. And what I was reading this morning in my study Bible was the temple courts was the one place the Gentiles could come to pray. In other words, you had the court of men, the court of women, Jews only. But the temple courts, these outer courts, were where the Gentiles could pray. And Jesus says, my house will be a house of prayer. But it's interesting, a house of prayer for all nations.
Yeah.
And Jesus was part of what incensed him was you're still making sure that Jews have a quiet place your people have a quiet place to pray, but the Gentiles get a cattle market and money changing and all. It's just, it was an interesting nuance that I was like, very interesting. From the beginning, Jesus cared about everybody. You know, he was sent to the Jewish people. He made that clear. Right. That was his God. The Father's specific agenda to him was for the Jewish people.
Starters, yeah.
For starters, yeah, because
right.
he went other places. The Syrophoenician woman, the Samaritan woman, all of that. But it was interesting that from the beginning, he cared about all of these people.
Right.
And it's almost like the Jews had decided Gentiles were such second-class citizens that I suppose even if they had been proselytes, they could still only pray out in the outer courts. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's what I was just saying. I was like, I read this stuff and I see something new that I hadn't seen, or new understanding of what was going on there, which is just really, really good.
I've thought about golf in this way. It's fascinating compared to any other sport in that you police yourself at one level, like you call strokes on. And I was just thinking of the biblical injunction to examine yourself.
And only if you don't, does someone else.
Right.
It's not like there's a referee
right.
where it's his job. If he misses it, he misses it.
Right.
You know, the catch is still a catch if the referee says it's a catch. But in golf, you're supposed to call it on yourself. The only time that someone else calls it on you is
if you don't call it on yourself.
That's a great analogy of the importance of confession. Otherwise, there can be rebuke.
Well, right. There's confession, and even I think that Bible, examine yourselves to this, and not just looking to see what I can get by with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's that one thing where, because sometimes, okay, you could not call a thing and it might get missed. Now, of course, when the fact that people can call in from TV and catch something now adds this other wrinkle to it. But I thought about that analogy.
That's a great analogy.
Now, here's the one I talked about this morning about Bruce and golf and goodness and
this is fun because I'm really attached to goodness. So I like where this is headed.
Well, so I was playing golf without you a few weeks ago. We were playing
what
in North Carolina.
You played golf without me.
So we played 9 holes. So I was there with,
great.
Ben, Roger, my 2 sons, Jeff my son-in-law, and myself. We played this course, actually a 27-hole course. And the greens were awful. So I won't name the course, but although they liked that little when I did these greens are awful. So if you're on the green, it's 2-putt. Most you can do is 2-putt. They all really enjoyed that one, but they were awful. They were bouncy, bally. Missed the hole.
Look at the ball roll away.
But so I caught myself. I realized I'm in this game and it's like, great shot. Oh, you smoked that one. What a wonderful putt. That you just had this great line on that. The lag on that was great. And I was, why am I so encouraging on a golf course? And I realized it's Bruce.
Oh, didn't see that coming.
Almost every time I've golfed, it's with you.
Yes. But
you just I realized I was simply living out something that was enculturated in me from the golf community that I've been a part of. It was and it's not a small thing, but noticing people doing something well. And I know how much work it is to find something good in my game. I've seen you go to great, that backswing is, I've never seen anything like that before.
I loved the contact. No, the way the accelerated off the club head.
Now, we neither of us like where it ended up, but you made contact.
Roger does his own stunts.
That's good.
No, I heard that line yesterday. That's good. On this YouTube video, I'm like, I got to use that somewhere. It's so good. I do my own stunts. It's always so. Anyway, You know what?
Don't try this at home.
You know what Toya Poplar calls me? She said, you have the ability to reframe everything. Okay. Which is true. Here's the thing. You can take some things that happen, and how you frame it depends a lot on how you and others feel about it. Right. I can take a very difficult situation and make people feel pretty darn good about it.
That's my golf game.
That's Roger's golf game. Hey, that was a great line, though. I know you went 16 feet by, but it hit the hole. And thank God it did, because otherwise it'd be 32 feet by and off the green. Great line.
So what it made me is it hit me that when we do something good, we often forget, we think about just the moment, this is good for the person. Here's the thing. I realize in the moment when you say an encouraging thing, I remember how good it feels, but you're doing two things. You're not just blessing me, you're ultimately going to be blessing somebody else down the road almost always.
We're creating a culture.
Creating a culture.
In other words, that's so interesting, because the golf game that I grew up with was not that culture, because I played with Marlena's dad, who was a perfectionist. And so he would, and I don't mean this in a mean way, but he would always pick out what you're doing wrong.
Right.
Oh, you raised your head up. You hit that one fat. You got me to just
stroke.
Right. There's so many things to think about.
You touched that. It's
right.
Stroke.
You had a hard time enjoying. Sometimes had a hard time enjoying the game. So I really, it's funny. I hadn't thought about it until you said it. I really try to flip that script so that golf is fun for other people.
Yeah.
Even for Zach.
It is.
I want him to just go. I want to pick out everything. It was a great. I know it went in the water, but you hit it a long way.
Killed that. Right.
I mean, and you do at that moment feel better about that thing. But what if that is an analogy for life? In that,
it absolutely is.
There's all sorts of hard things that are going on all the time.
Right.
But there's also good things that are going on all the time. And in one sense, I'm just choosing to see those. Maybe it's because I have to. Because of I'm already prone to depression, and part of the way that I fend that off is by being grateful, by being positive, because people will see me as a very positive person. Most people don't know when I'm struggling with depression, because I'm still going to remain, as much as possible, positive. And it's not because I'm masking, it's not because I'm hiding, it's not because I'm trying to deceive other people. I'm just choosing a frame on my life in the most positive form. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it's fun to know that has influenced your game, because you found yourself doing that with others.
Right. It literally, I was able to think, well, that's why
do I do that? Yeah.
That is why I do it. And sometimes I may be using similar lines, but, just, things that you would notice, but it was, and this is that great thing of even, I talked in my morning video, one of the people who did this for me when I was a teenager, which was really critical, was my cousin Don Sandberg.
Yeah.
But I realized I was so self-focused. I was very hard on myself, but I was also very focused in Roger's world. Ask my parents. It was Roger's world. They were revolving around my planet.
Roger was the definition of self-absorbed.
I was very self-absorbed, but what started to break me out of that, a key player, was Don encouraging, and so now he was teaching me to notice what others. I was just noticing Roger's world, but now you start paying attention. Don is looking at. He's thinking about how I might be feeling. He's giving me encouraging word. Raj may be down because his level of basketball play. He may be down frequently because of his level of basketball play. And I'm gonna. So early on, that was enculturated. You have followed up.
You are creating a culture. That's an interesting idea. That we are always creating a culture.
Right.
It's even like there was 5 ladies that were hiking last weekend, and it ended up raining many days. And they had all their pictures on Facebook, and so I just put a note on there. Hey, I know these ladies, or I love these ladies, something like that, because we had gone on a trip 4 years ago where it rained 4 days straight.
Oh gosh,
4 days straight. Gosh. And they Facebook back. They said, yeah, we talked about you a lot. We even sang the Lego song several times. So what I would do is, again, I'm creating a culture of positivity and fun. It's raining for 4 days straight. I mean, You're hiking in rain. You're setting up in rain. It's just raining. So I would do the Lego song. Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome when you're living out your dream. And at the first time, a couple of times I was doing it, these ladies would look at me like, and then they're laughing, and then I'm like, no, you got to sing it with me. I'm like, let's try it. And then I would get them all singing it. Well, what happened is now every time the rain would go, just come down in torrents, one of us would start singing it, and then everybody would sing it. And then all of a sudden we're laughing. What happens is you're taking a moment that could be potentially very discouraging.
Right.
And you made it positive. And so there's so much to touch on here. The power of community, relationship. You know, I was having a discussion with someone yesterday on what's the meaning of life. What's the meaning of life? And this person said, well, I know the church's take is to love God or glorify God and enjoy him all your life. He said, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I'm like, I wonder, for me, I was just off the cuff. I haven't given this any thought. I was like, it's just relationships. The whole meaning of life is I'm in a relationship with God. I'm in a relationship with others. And what we do in those relationships has everything to do with how we feel about our life. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. If we're nurturing relationships, if we're reframing things in positive ways, if we're encouraging other people, Scripture says encourage one another daily.
Yeah. You
find that you enjoy those relationships.
Yep.
You have relationships with other people that are like constantly negative. You find it hard to be around them. I mean, because they're also creating a culture.
Well, and that's the thing. That's the sobering counter. Because I want to say, when you're forgiving someone, you're never just blessing that. You're modeling something. If your kids or other people
they'll remember later,
admitting you're wrong. Do you have any idea the power admitting you're wrong, admitting mistakes, repentance, forgiving, generous giving? Another place where you've influenced me in different places. I've watched you just give in some scary ways at points, just kind of step out. But the counter is, if I'm negative and critical, it's not just that negative. I'm actually setting a tone. If I'm catching people doing wrong all the time, that's all I've met people that I ache for, because I feel like they must have grown up with that. They must have grown up. So it's just this reminder that any good that you're doing isn't just simply blessing that person. You're setting a tone. It's
not just blessing that period of time.
That moment.
Yeah. It's blessing many moments down the road.
You have no idea. Because I think about how many times on a golf course I encourage or refresh others, but you trace it back. It traces back to little decisions that you thought some big deal to you in the moment. You had just developed I'm going to do this. I'm going to affirm people. I'm going to bless. I'm trying to think where I might have learned a little of that from Tom Schreiner, because Tom Schreiner's a great golfer and I'm not. But he would find positive things to say about that. Isn't that interesting? Well, it's very good because he's like a 2 handicap or something.
Oh, he's a +1 now. He has to add a stroke at the end of his round. It's ridiculous. But even when I play with him now, he'll say, like, if I par a hole, like I played Macklemore with him, that's where the Macklemore. That's why he's the general manager. Okay. But I parred the toughest of the number 1 handicap hole. It's a par 4. I parred it. Didn't seem that hard to me. It was very interesting. But he was like, man, that was just a great par. You have no idea how good. I mean, it was like, now I hadn't done anything right the rest of the day. Like, we were teamed up playing the other 2 guys. I've lost every single hole. But I think I did learn encouragement from him.
Yeah, that's good.
So thank you, Tom. And I'd love to play Macklemore again sometime.
But thanks to Tom and Don and Bruce and all the people that built into our lives.
God.
Who
is all goodness. If we ever do anything bad, you trace it back to the goodness of God. And that was what Man's Search for Meaning by the Jewish author who's in Auschwitz.
Yes, I know you. Yes,
Hubert Humperdinck. No, but he talked about what he experienced in Auschwitz that kept him going. Was there was a time that one of the guards gave him an extra ladle of soup, and in that moment of goodness and generosity, he could see God in this concentration camp. Everyone else could see horror It is a nightmare. So much injustice and evil.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but we have to choose to see
Yeah.
and cling. And cling to that, because that to him was that's
Right.
that's the goodness of God. That's the image of God in this German guard right now. Wow. All right. Gone a little over today.
Closing ditty or phrase we. The power of good.
Encourage today, it won't go away.
It'll show up another day.
I didn't know we were doing like full-fledged limerick. Let's try a haiku. I don't even know what those are, but they seem like great fun.
I did one of those once.
Did you?
Yeah.
I don't understand
great fun.
they don't rhyme really, and there's no meter.